A lot of you may not remember or recall or knew that Nintendo actually came after me right after the Steam Deck launch happened, a week after, because I had made a bunch of emulation videos for the Steam Deck. So I did PlayStation 2 emulation, PlayStation 3 emulation, original Xbox emulation, and Switch emulation. Nintendo came after me and took down my Switch emulation video. That video is only available on Internet Archive at the moment. But not only did they go after that, they went after like really old videos and anything that had Mario in it. So there was Dolphin emulation and Wii emulation for like the GPD Win 2 that they went after. And they took down around 11 or so. I think there's only one video that I kept up, but all the other ones I just instantly deleted just because I really didn't want any heat from Nintendo at all. Like what they were doing seemed like they pressed a button and they were going to press another button. And like I saw what happened to Russ. And they were a little bit more egregious. They went for a copyright strike. And even just targeting Russ specifically seems odd because there's a lot of MIG Switch videos that were out. And then his follow-up Wii U video, and then copyright striking that one seemed double egregious. So I feel a lot worse for Russ because he's like hanging by a thread now, right? Nintendo's always pushed 2 buttons, but they never pushed 3 buttons. So I don't know. I still feel bad for Russ, because he's definitely targeted and there's other people that are doing stuff. It's the same thing for me, right? Like when I did the Nintendo Switch emulation video on the Steam Deck, other people have had very successful videos with Nintendo Switch emulation on Steam Deck. And those are still up on YouTube today. No problems whatsoever. And it's, you just like kind of take a step back and you go, well, what the hell, man? Like why me specifically, or why Russ specifically? So there's things that Nintendo does that you just kind of scratch your head and wonder what the hell they're doing over there. And then, you know, you saw Yuzu happen and it's like, okay, they felt like they had some legal right to do that. And it was like, okay, well, Yuzu's out of the picture. And for me, I actually preferred Ryujinx over Yuzu because Ryujinx always seemed to be going for an accuracy first emulator. And the reason I like accurate emulators is they're important. You need to have an accurate emulator because there may be something that's happening in some games specifically that will just break in weird ways that you won't even know about until later on, that will just mess up your entire game that you were trying to play. And it is just not a lot of fun. Yes, a more accurate emulator is less performant than less accurate emulators. If they're going to be chopping off a bunch of floating point because they're like, this is some trailing number that doesn't matter, let's just cut it off here. All of those things kind of compound and matter later on. And, you know, we saw this with BSSness, and I think there's like a Speedy Gonzalez game that was not completable. So we needed BSSness to actually do that in emulation. So this is like the important things of why an accurate emulator was necessary. Now, the report so far is that Ryujinx didn't get taken down because of a DMCA claim or anything like that, but something else. So it's disheartening to see that something like this happened for multiple reasons. When we talk about emulation of Nintendo, any system, right? The thing is never piracy. I own a ton of games. I think I have like 150 or so Nintendo Switch games, a lot of limited edition versions. I own Zelda Breath of the Wild like 3 times. So yes, I am totally the person that supports Nintendo. I like Nintendo products and I buy Nintendo products. In fact, I'm still going to buy Nintendo products later on. When the Super Switch comes out, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy 2 of them. I have, 5, 6 Nintendo Switches today, and I'll likely have multiple Nintendo Switches later on. Initially, when the Super Switch comes out, I'm definitely getting 2 because my son wants one. So that's just going to happen. I'm going to have multiple Super Switches and I'm going to buy whatever new games are out there. When you take a look at Nintendo in physical game sales, when you compare that to Microsoft especially, and now even Sony with the PS5 Pro not coming with a disc drive initially and now being this $80 extra cost, you can see all the signs that Sony is trying to detether and divorce themselves from physical game sales because they make more money on digital. But Nintendo doesn't seem like that's the case. And all of the Switch cartridges, there's growing sentiment that all of the Switch cartridges that you have are just going to work on the Super Switch. So things like the MIG Switch they want to take down and emulation they want to take down because they're worried that this is going to combat any type of sales. And piracy type of stuff I've never really considered to be anything that these companies really need to worry about. So the reality, especially today, is that piracy concerns are not about money. They're really about time. You look at Concord. Concord came out as a games as a service game that was a hero shooter, and it just flopped mega hard. And the reason wasn't because it wasn't good. There's lots of people that said gameplay was great. The problem really was that it was too similar to other games that people had already put a lot of time into. And if time is the major currency that we are switching over to, it's really not about money and people buying things. It's that the money is a small barrier compared to the amount of time that they're going to invest with how many games are available today, free to play and otherwise. So piracy is becoming less and less of an issue, and emulation stands as literally one of the only things that we have for preservation going forward. I think the ironic part out of all of this is that all of the YouTubers that they are targeting are people that genuinely care about preservation and playing these games and respecting these games and going through them as a medium, rather than, haha, I'm getting this thing for free. If Nintendo had offered any of these ways to sell these games, we would say, obviously, go that way. That is a service problem for Nintendo to sort out. But in the meantime, to disregard all of the history of the video games, it's absolutely insane. Imagine if there was a bunch of old films that, companies just say, no, you can't watch those anymore. It would be outrageous. There's a lot of film buffs and a lot of film enthusiasts, theater enthusiasts, movie enthusiasts. The bottom line is that ultimately, I'm not too worried about Switch emulation going into the future. As I see it right now, it's a hotbed, but as time goes on, I'm quite certain that we're going to see Switch emulation come back, either through whatever was built on top of Ryujinx or Yuzu, or just whatever is going to be built new. As time goes on, Nintendo will care less about Switch emulation and then Super Switch emulation. That will eventually happen. So it's more of an eventuality that we need to get there. And I'm glad that Ryujinx was always an accurate first emulator, because it always has done very well with emulating newer games without needing dev work to get them to work. Sometimes that was necessary, but as Ryujinx has developed along, there's been lots of times where things have just run just fine, shader compilations that are outside of there. But I would like to say that I'm no longer going to be a Nintendo customer, that I'm not going to buy Nintendo stuff anymore. They've come after me personally. They've taken down a bunch of my videos. They went after Russ in a more severe way, and all of those felt specifically targeted without really any fallout happening to anyone else. So it just seems like, what the hell? And then they went after the scene in general, but they took down Yuzu. It's like, okay, I can kind of see where they were going. They feel like they had a real good legal basis there. For Ryujinx, that seems like they did another deal. And, I can commiserate with all the sides. I can be sympathetic towards Nintendo about what they feel like the livelihood of their business and the things that they have to do to keep things going. I don't believe that piracy was that big of a deal, but, they're going to do what they're going to do. And this is the arrangement that they have made. I am not going to be showing off videos of any of their games specifically. That's a thing that we kind of have to be careful of as YouTubers. Like, oh, if I show Nintendo stuff and it has music or whatever, they're going to be able to push the button on me. So it's rather, be able to show other games on that platform. And at that point, I've already moved over to PC as a platform. My main platform is PC, and I buy most of my games on PC. So I still will be a Nintendo customer, and I'll still buy Switch and Super Switch games, physical games, just because I'm a game collector. And literally, this is likely to be the last bastion of game collecting at all, because both Microsoft and Sony seem to be moving away from physical sales and moving further into digital sales. So Nintendo is going to be the last place where you can actually buy physical games, which is oddly what you need for preservation. So it's just, I don't know. It's not a great time. It's a very clear arrangement that Nintendo has thrust into the ground as a line drawn in the sand of what they anticipate. So I'm going to respect that boundary. I don't think it's cool at all, and a lot of people don't think it's cool. And it's just a crappy time.